Welcome back to Nightstand Coffee. I am Todd.
And I'm Jennifer.
And this is Season 3, Episode 1.
Which is crazy.
Yeah. So glad you guys have been along with us for the journey.
Well, and we've kind of had quite a bit of a hiatus.
We have. It's been a little bit longer break than we had anticipated. Mm-hmm. But life has been crazy in really good ways.
Right.
But this was one of the things that kind of got pushed to the back burner a little bit. But I'm glad that we're back. I'm excited to be back.
Well, and I should also let everyone know that we're celebrating your birthday today. We're recording on your birthday.
On my birthday.
Talk about like having to find time. We'll do it on your birthday.
Yeah.
Don't have any other opportunity to do it.
Well, I would not want to spend my birthday with anybody but you.
Well, that's sweet.
Yeah, well, it's true.
Anything that we've been doing that it's worth telling people about?
I mean, you guys who have been with us through the end of Season 2 know that we went through kind of a transition in ministry. I'm the senior pastor at a church in Greensburg, Pennsylvania now, and so we made a shift from where we were before to there, and so that's been going on. And our middle daughter graduated high school and then moved to Arkansas, where she's going to college. Right?
Okay.
So I'm just trying to think what's been going on. I mean, it's been a little bit. Those are kind of the things. What?
I don't think I have anything fun to report. I've just been trying to get my dissertation written constantly.
Yeah, and I think for me, just the changes in ministry and responsibility and getting settled into that's been at the forefront of, and so that's what's going on.
We're trying something new today.
We are doing this on video for the very first time, and we're learning as we go. So if you guys go and check this out on YouTube, just know that we're experimenting, we're learning the video thing, and so
we're smidge green.
Yeah, if it's beautiful, great. If it's not beautiful,
give us some grace.
That's right.
Well, you should know that we have tied the camera to another mic stand across the room with some string that I found in my drawer.
Such a professional setup that we have. It is so pro level.
Well, I think it speaks to our Arkansas heritage. Like we can problem solve.
Hey,
like any hillbilly.
Make it happen. That's right. Improvise.
For sure.
But yeah, so what are we talking about today?
I wanted us to talk about expectations.
Okay.
So what is
your expectation for this episode?
Well, for me, what prompted this is, so what I'm studying right now is artificial intelligence and loneliness. And you could atone to this, speak to this, right? Attest to this.
Yeah, just about once a week at least, if not more. It's like, the world is coming to an end.
It's bad. Yeah. This is bad.
This is bad. That's what I hear all the time.
So
this
bad.
Is bad. It's so bad.
It is so bad. And so I'm sure I could speak a long time about this, but the things that I'm discovering that are happening because of artificial intelligence and like building relationships with an artificial intelligent thing, an AI or a chatbot, dude, this is not good. And so probably what prompted this for me was I came across an interview with someone, and she had said that AI had ruined her for real relationships because AI was always available, never demanding, and was always agreeable to them. And so they spent time, they were in this essentially a relationship with a chatbot, and then they started trying to date like a live person.
Okay.
And that live person wasn't available all the time and was demanding and like was not the same as the chatbot. And they're like, well, forget this. I'm not going to be with a real person. I'm going to go with the chatbot.
Yeah. You mean real people have real emotions?
For sure.
That go up and down?
Yes.
And yeah, well, okay.
And so, I'm worried. And so I'm worried about the state of humanity, honestly, because one of the things that I also read across was that they're expecting that by 2050, it's going to be legal to be married to a robot. And so
how does that even work?
I don't know.
I mean,
I don't know, but it makes me,
because from a legal standpoint, I mean, it's one thing if we start talking about the religious and the spiritual implications, right? Like the difference between a covenant of marriage and the legal contract of marriage. But the legal contract of marriage really is about property and inheritance and, taxes, all that kind of stuff. what's a robot have to do with that? And
I don't know. I mean, like that's probably some deeper. I mean, I just was in shock. I looked like Sebastian off The Little Mermaid with my jaw dropping, like, what? Marrying robots is gonna be a thing. Like, it's just insane. And so from a psychological perspective, I keep going to like, how in the world are your emotional needs being met by a robot?
yeah.
So there was another interview from a different person that also had been in a relationship with a chatbot and said that that they'd gotten into an argument, and that after the argument was over, that they discussed how the argument happened, like what caused the argument, and he said, and the AI changed for me, so she's not going to talk to me that way anymore, and so it fixed it. And so again, I'm like, we are doomed.
Yeah.
Because it's like that. While yes, we need to change when we have a disagreement, but like the way he presented is like, she's not going to do that anymore ever again. And so like,
so I don't ever have to change because the robot's going to change to accommodate me.
Yes.
Right. And so then we don't learn social skills. We don't learn to problem solve. We don't learn to interact with a real person. We don't learn
we just become narcissists.
The value of self-sacrifice and self-denial and all of those kinds of things. Mm-hmm. And so then we're incapable, really. I mean, I don't think that's an overly strong word. We become incapable of real human relationship.
Yes. And so then they're saying that, I promise we're going to get to why this matters at this point for us, but they're also saying that people are going to choose to be with a chatbot or an AI over a human relationship, which means that there will be less marriages and less children, so they'll have a population drop. So like we're expecting the population to go down because people are going to not connect with one another because they're going to choose to connect to the computer instead.
Well, and contrary to what we've been told, that's not a good thing.
No.
A drop in the population is not a good thing. In fact, like when you start talking about, and this is not an economic podcast, but the impact on the global economy is really, really bad because you don't have people to fill the workforce to meet the demand. You have an older generation that begins to die off, and then there's no one there to step into the gap and the void in India. Yeah, it's I know that we've been told since we were, since I was a kid at least, that we're overpopulating, we've got to decrease the population. Turns out that's not reality. That's not how it works.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, so we're in for it. So yet again, this is not good. This is so bad.
All right.
This is so bad.
Before we just go all doom and gloom and, well,
that's what prompted this conversation.
Well, right. But I just want to, from the outset, say, look, we believe that God is in control.
Well, sure.
Right? And that he ultimately will set all things right. And so this is not like a cause for alarm necessarily, or like I say, I don't want us to, I don't know, like don't hide in your bunker and start.
No, but actually the opposite. We need to not be hiding. We need to be like eyes fully open to what's going on around us and not just go, well, whatever is going to happen is going to happen. We need to be mindful of what's going on because it's a problem.
Yeah. And so then I think it becomes for us a real opportunity to model and exemplify for the world what healthy, godly, productive and fruitful marriages and relationships look like, because they're going to become less and less common.
True.
And already, right? I mean, so when we go back, when we start talking about the expectations thing, we already have a tendency to come into marriage with unrealistic expectations. And so now we're going to see like these machines, these AIs, they're going to accommodate our unrealistic expectations in ways that make it even more difficult for us to...
Listen, there are people that are marrying their chatbot. They are having ceremonies and they are marrying their chatbot. And so people are choosing to do life with a chatbot over a human person. It's insane. It's insane. It's so bad. It is so bad.
It's my birthday, and this is reminding me how old I really am.
For sure.
Yeah.
And so, like, it's really sad to me. And so, like, I'm wanting us to be discussing it so that, like you said, everyone's attentive to what's going on and you're aware of it, and so you don't get sucked into it. It's the whole analogy of you have a frog that you put in water. So if you put a frog in boiling water, it touches the water and immediately jumps out, and it doesn't want to be there. If you put a frog in cold water and you slowly turn the temperature up just 1 degree at a time, before you know it, the frog hasn't moved, but it's now been boiled and it's cooked and it's dead.
Right.
We are that frog. We are the frog. And so if we're not paying attention, we are going to be boiled. So I relationally,
that's your dose of hope for
oh
the
my
day.
Goodness,
that's this episode.
Well, I should also add probably why I'm saying this so passionately, so now they're getting to see how passionately I've become in these settings, is that because I would have a tendency to not think much about it.
Yeah.
That I'm ahead in the sand. Like, I'm not watching the news. I'm not really worried about what's happening. Like, I'm just going to live my life. First of all, I don't have time to watch the news, but I just don't want to engulf myself in those things. And so I think, oops, I touched the microphone. I think that I would have a tendency to be an ostrich for this kind of thing. I would just go about my business and not think anything about it. And then I would be boiled. I'm going to be a boiled frog.
Yeah. Well, and so here's the thing. We were created for relationship.
Yes.
We were created for relationship, and not just the easy parts of relationship. Marriage is not primarily, honestly, it's not even primarily about making me happy, right? Primarily, marriage is about making us holy. Marriage is about showing us and reflecting to us what our relationship to God is like, And so, I mean, the difference is that in my relationship with God, one of us is perfect, right?
Right.
In my relationship with you, that's not the case.
Well, yeah, I am.
Yeah, exactly.
Just kidding.
So, but all of the ins and outs, the good, the bad, the ugly, all of those things in human relationship are designed to shape us, to form us, to help us to develop bonds with one another.
Well, iron sharpens iron. Like, you're supposed to rub up against each other as far as like emotionally, and like become better people because of the rough edges that come in contact with one another. When you're in relationship with a chatbot, that doesn't happen.
Well, no, because when you tell it it's bumped up against your rough edges, it just automatically changes so that you don't ever have to deal with that again. That's not healthy. Well, as appealing as that might seem to us, it's not healthy. It's not good for us.
Well, and it gives you all these positive affirmations like, oh, well, that was a wonderful idea. That was brilliant. I can't believe you thought about that. And then interacts.
Yeah. So
it kisses your butt.
The most difficult people, yeah, exactly. And the most difficult people that you and I will come in contact with are the people who think that their poop doesn't stink. And so now we're going to have these bots
these
telling
chatbots
us
telling
all
you,
the time that our poop doesn't stink.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's craziness. So because we have this coming, and so maybe our listeners aren't in tune with this yet, and that's okay. I wasn't until I started studying it. And so maybe we're not aware of it, but I think it's important that we consider how we become disgruntled and dissatisfied, and then realistically, what should our expectations be about changing that, right? Because my concern is that if we aren't happy in our own current relationships, it's a marriage podcast, if you're not happy, then what are you doing to change that? By chance, are you getting into a relationship with a chatbot? And so then you're getting your emotional needs met by a machine, and you're being lied to about how great you are, right? Or are you able to work that out with your partner? And so obviously we want the latter. Yeah.
Well, and I think there's a component of worship here too, right? If you're a Christian, we tend to idol, we're drawn away toward idolizing things. Sometimes that can be our spouse, but in this case, like, we're literally being drawn away to idolize a false god in some ways, right? You're putting your affection and your devotion in this thing that's not real, in this thing that really can't deliver on what it is that you're truly longing for.
Well, and what I would add to that is that we were created for that, right? There is this God-shaped hole within us that we want to worship something. We want to value something. We want to have something to give our adoration towards. And so part of being in a fallen world is we put the wrong thing in that hole. We don't let God have the space that he needs to have in our lives. And so then we end up worshiping other things. We worship sports people. We worship famous actresses. We worship other things and people in our lives that aren't God. And so I think we have to understand we have this propensity and this internal drive to do those things. We have to make sure that we're in the right place, because if not, then the enemy's able to use that against us.
Yeah.
So when you think about our own marriage, did you have any expectations going into it that we didn't meet?
Sure.
What were they? Do you remember? I could guess.
Well, yeah. So, I thought we'd have sex all the time. That it would just be, and that you would want to all the time. And that I would want to all the time, right? I mean, I probably was unrealistic about money and just thought that would never be an issue. We'd always have plenty of it, and we would never argue about it or disagree.
Yeah.
I probably
maybe my availability to you.
Maybe so. I mean, I think you underestimate, and certainly before you have kids, you underestimate the demands that life can put on you, and how that. You think that, we'll be living together, so we're just going to spend time together all the time. Yeah. And the reality is that when you're dating, you make a priority of spending time with that person because you don't live together, right? Typically, right? And so then you kind of let up when marriage happens, because it's like, we live together now, and then.
Right. I think I would add or agree with that the financial stuff was definitely something that I thought, we'll achieve every financial goal we have, we'll achieve it, right?
By year 3.
Right. Yeah. Right. Like I should have a beach house by now. Let's just talk about that, and so I don't think you really realize how hard it's going to be.
Yeah.
And so then I think I expected our communication to be easier, that like being vulnerable wouldn't be an issue.
Well, I know for me, I probably overestimated how healthy I was or wasn't. Right?
Sure.
I underestimated the level of dysfunction that I was still living with, because I was pretty good at masking it, and I'm also pretty good at disconnecting from my feelings at times. If you can say pretty good at it, I don't know if that's a good thing to be able to do, but it's kind of what I had learned to do. And so, I wasn't nearly as good at communicating as I thought I was when we first were married.
Right. Well, and so then how did we do that? How did that impact us? Do you remember?
A lot of rough edges and bumping up against each other. And I mean, I think underneath all of that, there was a commitment to growing, right? Which, and we can talk some more about this, as we kind of get into the conversation, but there are healthy expectations to have, one of which is an expectation that we should grow and a commitment to grow together. And so I think, having a foundation that was rooted and grounded in God and in our faith, and then a commitment to growing together, right? To growing more like Jesus, to growing in our relationship with the Lord. Outside of those two things, I don't know that we would have survived, right? Yeah. I think those things, that foundation is crucial.
Yeah.
And has been the thing I think that's sustained us.
Well, I think also we have an expectation that the other spouse will know what we want. And you shouldn't have to tell them. Oh, how often do we hear?
That's an unrealistic one.
For sure.
Yeah.
How often do we hear that I shouldn't have to tell you that the dishes need done?
Yeah.
I shouldn't have to tell you to put your clothes away. I shouldn't have to tell you to take the trash out, right?
Right.
And so on both sides, right? I shouldn't have to tell you that I want to have sex with you. I shouldn't have to tell you that you need to clean your car out. Whatever it is. Like, there's an expectation that the other person is just going to know. Well, we've been married X amount of years. They should know by now, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah. Well, it's crazy unrealistic when you're newly married.
Yeah.
Right. But people come into marriage with that kind of expectation.
Right.
But I don't think it ever becomes a reasonable expectation. Like, yes, certainly after 26 years, there are things that I just know intuitively about you that I didn't know 26 years ago, right? I know your preferences. I know, and so certainly there are things that I can anticipate. And as a husband who wants to love you well, I do my best to do those things. But I don't always get it right, I still can get caught up in my own stuff and like walk past that thing that's on the counter and not notice it. Right. Or, whatever. I mean, we all get busy. We all have, and that's the thing that I try to remember, is that you're a fully formed person, like with a job and with 3 daughters and a granddaughter and other people who put demands on your time relationally and things that you're trying to accomplish and goals that you have. And it's not a reasonable expectation for me to think that you're always going to know intuitively where I'm at, what I'm wanting, how I'm feeling that day. It's just not real.
Right. Well, and so I think that goes both ways, right? Like I should expect you to tell me, right? And I should expect to hear it.
Yeah.
Because I don't think we always want to hear what the other person says, or what they're asking for. And so it should be a two-way street that there should be an expectation that I hear what you're communicating to me.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's part of what underlies sometimes that you should know what I want is a fear of having to tell them.
Because that feels vulnerable.
Yeah. It's a vulnerability thing.
People are telling their chatbots, so they might as well tell their spouse. And
you know why they're telling their chatbots?
Why?
Because they're not real.
Yeah.
They're not real, which is part of the whole issue with this thing. It's like whether we come into marriage with false expectations and then we get disappointed, or we go to a chatbot because we know they won't ever disappoint me, which they will. Ultimately, it's going to happen. Like, I think that's where that's going to head. It's going to crash and burn.
Yeah.
Because we crave real. Mm-hmm. And real isn't always easy.
Right. Well, and so I think we fear vulnerability, sometimes, because we don't know how our spouse is going to take that.
Yeah.
And so then instead of expressing what we need or that we have an expectation that wasn't met, we just condemn them for falling short. Mm-hmm. Like we don't say, hey, I'm feeling insecure. I need you to reassure me.
Yeah.
Or, hey, I don't know. I'm tired today and I can't get all this done. I need your help. Right. Instead, we get frustrated. Like they saw me struggle to carry this box across the room and they didn't get up out of their chair to help me.
Yeah.
And then the spouse is like, well, you didn't ask me to help you. So how did I know you needed to do that?
Right.
I cannot tell you how often some form of that argument happens,
yes.
Or we discuss it in therapy, like some form of it.
And there's a breakdown on both sides in that.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I'm assuming the wife is carrying the heavy thing. Maybe not, maybe. Mm-hmm. But whoever's carrying the heavy thing should feel comfortable saying, hey, could you help me with this? Mm-hmm. Right?
I actually did that this morning.
You did?
I was carrying my laundry down. I made it down 3 flights of stairs. There's one to go. And I was like, will you finish this? Because I breathe heavy because I'm so out of shape.
Well, and you could have called me and I would have come up the 3 flights and carried it the whole way. But yeah, so you should feel comfortable enough to say, hey, could you help me with this? By the same token, if I'm the husband and I'm sitting there and you're walking across the room with a big heavy box, my love for you should compel me to say, let me take care of that for you. Mm-hmm. Like, let me do this for you. Mm-hmm. And so there's a breakdown on both sides. Husbands, if you're not loving your wives in that way, to be say, hey, let me do this for you. Let me help you with this. And certainly they could say no, and at that point, don't force the issue, right? I mean, there was probably a time when you might have felt some kind of way about me asking if I could carry something for you. Maybe not. Right?
Maybe. I don't know.
Acts of service is your thing, so
maybe. If I was trying to prove myself, maybe. But.
Right. And so it doesn't. I guess with that, I'm just trying to say it doesn't have to become a gender thing. It doesn't have to become
sure.
loving somebody is about serving them. So serve them.
Which a chatbot can't do. Bringing it back to that. But I think it's important too that like and I've said this before, I know, which is that we need to express our needs as requests and not as complaints. And so we so quickly go to the complaint area and go, you don't do this and you haven't done that. And like you complain about how it was missed.
Yeah.
When the reality was you never really asked in the first place. Like you never expressed, hey, I need you to do this, or I need this from you.
Yeah. And then we start using absolutes.
You never.
You always do that, or you'd never do this.
Right.
Which is not true, right? I mean, I guess it could be, right? But 99 times out of 100, those absolutes are not true.
Well, but these complaints, though, are rooted in missed expectations.
Sure.
So, like, you have an expectation that your spouse will do something, they don't do it, and then you start complaining about it.
Yeah.
Right? And so then we need to temper our expectations and be realistic about them, but we've got to communicate them.
Yeah.
Because I think so often we don't. And so... And then we end up fighting about dumb, stupid things that really don't matter.
Yeah.
They don't.
Well, and so what are some then reasonable expectations that we should come into marriage with, come into relationships with?
Well, I don't know that I want to answer that, but I will answer that you need to be able to communicate them. So like, 'cause I don't want to say that, these are okay and these aren't okay. Right? Because I don't think that's always true across the board. What's okay and not okay in our marriage may not be true for someone else's marriage.
Yeah, I mean, certainly in terms of like how the household labor is divided, for example. What works for us might not work for another couple, or how they handle the money. So I'm not talking about those kinds of things, but I do think that there are some principles that are reasonable in terms of expectation. Like, so, for example, I think that, we're talking about disagreement and communicating our expectations, in the form of a request rather than a complaint, that kind of thing. So I think that's a reasonable expectation, right? I think forgiveness and grace is a reasonable expectation.
Okay.
We should come into marriage, we should come into human relationships, whether it's marriage or any other relationship, honestly, knowing that the person that we're coming into relationship with is just as flawed and broken. And
sure, I can agree with that.
So I think there should be an expectation of forgiveness and grace. And I think that's reasonable. And if we're not extending forgiveness and grace to each other, then we're not meeting a reasonable expectation.
Well, I think you can expect your spouse, or should be able to expect your spouse, to stay loyal to you and to not have an extramarital relationship.
Absolutely. I think faithfulness is a reasonable expectation.
And I think that looks like not only like sexual intimacy, but also like emotional intimacy. I think, pornography can be something that gets in and creates problems. And so I think there's multiple levels of that, but I think you should be able to expect from your spouse that they're going to stay loyal to you. Yeah.
I mean, as followers of Jesus, we stand at an altar and we say, like, that I give myself to you and to you alone, right? Forsaking all others, and all others means all others, right?
Yeah.
Real or virtual.
Right.
And, and so, I think that's a reasonable expectation. Commitment through difficult seasons.
Yeah.
Like, it's not always going to be easy, and it's a reasonable expectation for our spouse to stick with us and to be our teammate through difficult times and be committed to those things.
Well, and I think sometimes you go through the difficult times together, and sometimes you go through them separately. Like, let's say if maybe you've had a death of a parent, and so that maybe doesn't
affect one as much as the other. Yeah.
But so the non-affected spouse needs to be supportive. It may be something that you're going through this difficult together, right? It may be that
maybe you've got a kid who's in addiction, or is going through,
or money challenges, or who knows what the myriad could be, but like it could impact you both the same, or it could impact one worse than the other.
Right.
And so you need to be with each other. Like that's part of what they say.
I'm going to hold your hand through this. I'm going to walk with you through this.
So an old lady phrase would be, who do you want to be in a foxhole with? Yeah. So who do you want to go to war with? Who do you want to be fighting with? And so this should be your spouse. You shouldn't be fighting with each other in the foxhole. You should be on the same team, supporting one another through it.
Yeah.
And that requires communication. You have to talk about those things.
Right. I think mutual respect is a reasonable expectation, right? I think partnership in the household responsibilities or life responsibilities. They're not all inside the house, right? I mean, because providing financially requires working outside the home more often than not, right? But that's a shared responsibility, and I think all of that, parenting, household, management, financial, responsibility. That doesn't mean that both of you work, but it means that both of you manage those things and handle those things. And, all of that I think is reasonable. Now, the minutia of that, like the particulars of how that gets worked out, that looks different for every family. The way that you and I parent together is going to be different than the way another couple parents. The way that you and I divide the financial responsibilities is going to look different than some other, like in our family, you do most of the bill paying and the bank management and all of those kinds of things. And we just kind of talk about what's going on with our money. I'm not that hands-on with it. In another marriage, the husband might be the one that does all of those things.
That's okay.
Yeah, one's not right and one's not wrong. But the reasonable expectation is that we go, okay, we're partners in this.
Right.
And we're going to do this together. And how we work that out will look different. But we're in it.
Well, and I have an expectation that you will back me up when it comes to parenting our girls.
Yeah.
Which I think that we've managed that fairly well.
Yeah.
And so, for those of you that are raising girls, you probably understand they can be sassy.
They can.
We won't let the cat out of the bag about who's the most sassy in our family, but we definitely,
or if there was sassiness this morning, even.
Well, we do have a standout in our family when it comes to sass. However, I think that's something that you've done well with is like having my back on that.
And vice versa. I think we present a united front well.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Because I know that like when there's been sass, like I can tag you in. I can say, they just talked to me this way. Go handle this. And and you're willing to do that. And so then that's an expectation I have is that if I tag you in because they've been terrible to me, that you will defend me to the death.
Yeah. Well, and look, number one, husbands, there should be a commitment that you have that you're not going to talk to or about your wife in
derogatory ways.
Yeah.
Disrespectful ways.
You're not going to run her down. You're not going to call her names. You're not going to, talk to her in a particular tone of voice, and not that we always get all of those things right? But we need to be committed to this is the standard that I'm living up to or living toward in my relationship to my wife. If I'm going to love her like Christ loves the church, then a reasonable expectation is that I'm going to talk encouragingly to you. I'm going to communicate my love to you. I'm going to live sacrificially towards you. I'm going to defend you when others, even my children, speak to you in a certain way. Right. And that's, that doesn't mean physical violence, right? But it means that I stand up and I say, hey, that's not okay. You're not going to talk to the person that I love the most in that way. That's not going to happen.
Right. And so I think it's important that you don't feel like you're doing the parenting all on your own.
Yeah.
That it should be a team effort. And so if that's happening, you need to talk to your spouse and communicate about that.
Well, I would say that most of us have, know people who have felt that way, or maybe you're in a relationship where you feel that way and we know the kind of damage that can do to a relationship, to a marriage, and the kind of, separation that it can cause.
When you're allowing someone to talk badly about your spouse, is that what you mean?
Yeah. And then, and when you're not presenting a united front as parents, when one parent feels like they're doing all the parenting.
Okay. Yes. Yeah. That's very difficult. Do you have other things that you want to say is things that you can expect?
I mean, I had a few other things. Well, and you kind of already mentioned this actually, but honest communication. I think expecting open and honest communication and respectful communication is reasonable. And I think it's essential. I mean, if you're going to actually resolve conflicts, if you're going to actually grow together, so I think that's That's reasonable.
And I think honestly, most arguments, and at this moment, I can't think of any that wouldn't fall under this category, but an argument is usually based in missed expectations.
Yeah.
Right? You had an expectation that something was going to happen a certain way, or they're going to respond a certain way, or something's going to happen, and it was missed, and you're angry about it. So then you talk about it, right?
Yeah.
Or you fight about it. And so like anger is a form of manipulation. And so basically you're saying, I'm angry with you, and I don't like what you did, so I'm going to be mean to you until you change your behavior.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, maybe I would back up and just say, I don't know that the emotion of anger is not manipulation, right? Like when we feel that emotion, that's a legitimate feeling.
But it's rooted in, and maybe manipulation is too bold of a word, but it's rooted in something is not okay here.
Right.
And I'm communicating that to you.
Yes, we become angry because an expectation was missed.
Well, and
but
we're
how
angry.
we handle it.
Sure. But you are saying to this person, you better change this or I'm not going to be nice to you. That's really what anger's about. Well,
I mean, you certainly can say it that way. I don't know that you have to. And that's the point that I'm trying to make. I don't think it's, I think we get angry, right? Mm-hmm. There are things that make you angry. There are things that make me angry, that disappointments happen, right? But so we have to decide, how am I going to handle those?
Right. But if you're basically saying to them though, like with anger, you're saying, I'm not happy with it just went down, right? Like I'm not okay with this. And so then I think when you express that anger, if you're saying to them, I don't like what happened.
Right.
And so then now there's a healthy way to do that and unhealthy ways to do that.
And that's what I'm talking about.
Okay.
Okay.
I'll get on the page with you for that.
Yeah.
But I think that like ultimately.
Because honesty requires that I tell you when I'm angry. Mm-hmm. Right?
Sure.
Maturity requires that I handle that in a proper fashion.
Right.
Right? The problem isn't that we get angry. The problem is that then I don't handle it properly. I lack self-control, or I don't speak with kindness, or
to me it would be you lack insight. Like if you're angry and you don't manage it well, you don't lack insight into yourself, into what's going on or what's motivating your actions or behaviors.
Yeah.
And so then like it's okay when I get angry, I usually try to take a second and go, okay, so what is it that I'm mad about? What do I feel like didn't go the way I wanted it to go or expected it to go? And then immediately after that, it's like, is that realistic? Is that real? Like, is that fair for me to be upset about that? You know? And so then I act accordingly in those moments. But I definitely do some self-assessment. Like, did I communicate that this was my expectation? And if I didn't, is it fair that I'm mad? Like, if I have an expectation and I don't tell you what it is, and then you don't meet it, and then I'm mad at you, how's that fair?
Right.
But it happens all the time.
Well,
all the time.
Well, yeah, because we have this delusion, really, that I should never feel disappointed. Mm-hmm. I should never feel bad, and if I do, it's your fault.
Right.
Right. And if you would just change, then I wouldn't feel this way. It's like, well, no, that's not real. Mm-hmm. That's not real. Mm-hmm.
And so if I've made you mad, I want to find out why.
Sure.
Right? And then I want to adjust my behavior and actions so that you're not angry anymore. And so hopefully that's our response when our spouse is angry. But it makes it really hard if you're coming at me, very aggressively, or, by name calling or putting me down or telling me that I, don't know what I'm doing or whatever. And so there's an appropriate way to approach it. But I think it's a very necessary thing to do, is to have the conversation about it.
Yeah. Because what's not reasonable is for me to live like I said, with the delusion that I'm never going to be disappointed.
Yeah.
Right. And that's what we get angry about. It's like, it's as if we never expected to be disappointed. Like, you're going to be disappointed. Mm-hmm. And not because your spouse is malicious and is intentionally trying to disappoint you, but they're human.
Right.
They're human. And that's the thing that we forget. And I think that's almost always, that's where unrealistic expectations are rooted in, is that we forget that we're dealing with a person. Like,
I also think there's a degree of selfishness when we have unmet expectations and then we like lord them over our spouse.
Yeah.
Right? Like, you're basically saying what I want is more important than whatever's going on with you or how you're feeling or whatever's happening. It's like you're saying, I'm superior in this moment.
Well, and your purpose in life is to please me.
Right. Right. And so then it's okay to have expectations. I want to be clear about that.
Yeah.
They need to be healthy.
Yes.
But when they're not met, you need to really do a self-assessment as to, was this a realistic expectation? Did I communicate it? And does this mean there's something wrong with my spouse if they didn't do this? Right? Or am I being selfish and expecting that my needs are more important than theirs?
Yeah.
Because I think we get stuck there a lot.
Look, and certainly there are times and there are relationships where one partner or the other is intentionally doing things that are hurtful, and like at that point they're breaching reasonable expectation. That's a whole different conversation than really what we're talking about here. That requires a whole different course of action. It's a whole different thing. Like that's when selfishness has gone, well, it's being fed and it's being catered to in ways that are destructive, and
well, it becomes very one-sided.
Yeah,
in those moments, and it's like to think that you're the only one that needs to have your needs met is really ridiculous.
Yeah,
but so often though we get to that point where it's like, well, my needs aren't getting met, so I'm not meeting your needs.
Right.
You're
we
not,
get into that tit for tat reciprocal.
You're not doing what I need, so I'm not going to do it. And so then we have to be mindful of that. Like if you're in a situation right now where you feel like your expectations aren't getting met, you need to ask yourself, A, have I expressed my expectations? And B, are they realistic?
Yeah.
And maybe it's the opposite. Maybe you should say, are my expectations realistic? And then have I expressed them? And so either way, but I think it's important to do an assessment on that and ask before you go anywhere with it, right? Before you go to your spouse with it, you need to take a minute and look at it internally and go, is this real? Like, should I really be doing this?
Yeah.
Is it realistic that I should think, I don't know, that you're going to make the bed every day? We're not bed makers. So, but have I expressed that to you? And is that a realistic expectation? And I don't know that we do a good job of that. We just get angry when they aren't met.
Yeah.
So what else do you have?
That's all the reasonable ones that I had. I really think, like I said, it's really more about principles than it is particulars, because the particulars change because every person is different, right? But there are things that we should expect in coming into marriage. There are promises that we make, right? I mean, our vows say, in good times and in bad times, in sickness and in health, for richer, for poorer, but so often when the bad and the poor and the sick happens, we, in the worst cases, just quit altogether. Yeah. But often it just becomes like an opportunity for resentment and for anger and for, it's like, man, no, these are opportunities for us to grow. And it's not easy, right? And it's really easy for us to sit in a conversation and talk about this is what should happen. It's much harder, right, in the real deal, in the things of life, but it's not impossible. But it is impossible when my expectation is that you'll be the one to change.
Right. Fair.
I can't change anybody except Todd.
Right. Oh, I can't tell you how often I'll be in that kind of situation in session where they'll be saying, my husband's doing this, my husband's doing that, but I'll just be meeting with the wife. And it's like, well, but your husband's not in the room. I don't have any impact on your husband. I can only impact you. And so understanding that we have to be aware of what our role is in the situation and then adjusting at that point.
Yeah. Man, like, I don't know. I know you played sports, some growing up, and so did I. The worst teammate in the world was the teammate who was always telling everybody else what they were doing wrong, but never took
self-assessing.
never took responsibility for themselves and what, see that in marriages all the time, right? Rather than looking at themselves and going, how can I become the husband that my wife needs? It's, if she would just do this, if she would just do that, if, then things would be better.
Us being a good spouse shouldn't be dependent on if our spouse is being a good spouse. We should be good because we want to be good, right? Like, because we want to serve that person. We want to do what God's asked us to do. And so, like, we shouldn't temper our changing on whether or not our spouse will change.
Yeah. That doesn't mean they don't need to change.
Right? Absolutely.
But you can't change them.
No.
Right? You can carry them to Jesus, right? You can pray that God would capture their heart. You can certainly pray, Lord, make me the spouse that my husband needs, make me the spouse that my wife needs,
and you can communicate what your expectations are.
Yeah.
But
if you can do it well.
Right. Right. Well, that may be a whole different conversation then, is how do you communicate that?
Yeah.
But yeah, it's okay to communicate. That's what you need to do. You need to be saying, hey, this is what I'm needing from you. This is what I'm wanting from you, right? And be able to say those things. You have to tell them, because you can't fix it if you don't tell them.
Right.
And so it's important that you communicate it.
Yeah, which then goes back to that whole thing of like the mind reader thing. Like you're not telling them what your expectations are. You're just mad when they
don't meet them.
Or you're only telling them when you're angry. And so then there's this heightened, everybody's in this state of arousal and you don't hear it.
Right.
So, and so then you're like, I've told you over and over and over and over again, but you've only told them when you're talking like that.
Yeah. Well, and if you put it in terms of like, let's say you have a boss and all you know is that your boss is grumpy with you all the time and they're not happy with you, but they never tell you what you've done wrong, what they're expecting of you. They're just rude. Like, think about how insecure you'd feel in that setting. Like, you have this boss that you want to please, you want to do a good job.
Yeah.
But like what you find yourself doing is you're running your mouth somewhere about your boss. You're not, you don't feel secure when you're at your job.
Yeah.
Right. You're constantly looking over your shoulder going, is this okay? Is this okay? And so if that's how you would respond at work, the same thing's going to be true at home.
Right.
Right? If you don't know what's being expected of you, like you're like, well, what's the point in trying?
Yeah.
Like I can't do anything right. They don't pay attention to what I'm doing. They don't notice my efforts. And so then you give up a lot.
Yeah.
And so it's so important that you say, this is what I need. This is what I need from you. Or I feel better when this happens. I like it when you do these things.
Well, and then praise them.
Yeah, that's true.
When they get it right. Sure. It's so important.
Dude, because what happens is that there's a slight change. And so then, like, let's say between you and I ask you to do something, you do it, but I don't acknowledge it. Then you're like, well, what's the point?
What's the point?
Why should I do that? You didn't even notice that I did it. So I'm not going to do it again. But if you do the change and I say, hey, I noticed that you did that. I noticed that you took care of this situation. Thank you for doing that.
Yeah.
Then like you puff up and you're like, that's right. I did what you needed me to do. And you're way more willing to do it a second, third, and forever time.
Yeah.
Right. And so don't withhold praise in those situations.
Well, and don't just praise them for those things that you asked them to do and they did. Like, talk about, because nobody is completely terrible, right? Your husband's doing one thing right.
Well, there was some point that you decided this is who you wanted to spend the rest
Right.
of your life with, so they had some value at some point.
Yeah, but I guess all I'm saying is like appreciate the good things about them. Right? They need to hear it. You need to hear the things that I love about you. Mm-hmm. You need to hear, like I need to tell you how good a mother you are. I need to tell you and appreciate how good you are at building relationships and encouraging other people and helping them to flourish and grow. I need to tell you, and oftentimes that's just not happening. The only thing that gets communicated is what you're disappointed about, which is killing your spouse. Mm-hmm. And it's also closing your eyes to the good things that your spouse is and does. Because we become hyper-focused on the negative stuff, and then we become blind to the good things.
So do you have a challenge for our listeners?
Well, yeah. I mean, I would say find something to praise your spouse for this week. Find a way to productively communicate an area of, I don't want to say disappointment, but an area of expectation that's not being met. And then I would say do this. This is one of the things I used to do with a group of guys that I was with. We would have, it was called the 5 for 5 challenge, where whenever you get home, right, like the first time that the two of you are together in the evening after work or whatever it might be, the first time that you are in the house together at the end of the day, for 5 minutes, you have to be within 5 feet of each other. and talk about your day.
Okay, those are good. I think what I would say is that if you find yourself being disgruntled, assess yourself and say, are my expectations realistic? Should I be expecting these things? Right?
Yeah.
And then have I communicated them to my spouse? Have I let them know that this is what I want? Not in a way of you're not doing,
right.
You haven't done. It's more about, hey, this is something I need from you.
Yeah.
I feel good when. And so both sides, like having a conversation about what is it that I have an expectation about, and like, is that real?
So if you're the spouse that's receiving that request, how can you prepare yourself to receive it well? Because it may not be something you want to hear.
Well, I think you have to listen to understand. Like every time you have a situation like this, you've got to take a minute and go, okay, I'm going to set my side and my feelings to the wayside over here. I'm going to take my perspective and set it over here and say, okay, I need to make sure I understand what you're saying to me.
Yeah. So don't be prepping your answer in your head while they're talking.
Don't be defensive when you're hearing it.
Right.
Just listen. Seek to understand what they're saying to you. And then you can respond and you can say, why you want to try to do that. If there's a reason that you could say why you haven't done it, it's okay to express that. Make sure it's conversational and you're not yelling at each other.
Right.
But don't get defensive about it. Like if this is new for you, praise your spouse for taking the time to communicate that. Like saying, hey, I know this has to be hard for you to say this to me. And so I really appreciate you doing it. Let me make sure I understood what you said. And then you come up with a plan on how to fix it.
Yeah. Failure is a prerequisite for learning. You're not going to get it right every time. Right. And I think that we sometimes come into relationships thinking we're going to get it right every time. Like, well, you're never going to learn.
Yeah.
Right? Like that, you have to get it wrong to learn. You're learning your spouse. You're learning to be a good husband. You're learning to be a good wife. Even if you had the best examples in the world, you're in a new relationship. Your relationship's not like your mom and dad's.
Right. Well, and I oftentimes say, like, over communication is better than none.
Yeah.
And so then, like, it's okay to say something that feels obvious. Like, say the obvious. Like, even say, this may be obvious, however, and you just say it, right? Because then you can't say, well, you never told me.
Yeah.
Or I never knew you felt that way.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, you did, because I just told you this is maybe obvious, but. And so people think this is going to be dumb, so I'm not going to say it. But the reality is it's a good thing to talk about it.
Sure.
Like, over communication is what it feels that way, but I think it's necessary communication.
Yeah. Now, there may be husbands who are hearing you say that, and where their mind goes immediately is nag, right? So what's the difference between over communicating and nagging?
Well, the nagging has a value statement tied to it.
Yeah, there you go.
Right? Like, you never do this. Like, can you please just get up off your butt and go do it? That to me, that's a nag. Like, I've asked you over and over and over again, and you haven't done it yet. To me, there's a negative repetition to nagging. But just communicating, I think, is just, hey, can you take care of this for me?
Yeah.
Or I may have said this before, but I just want to make sure that that's important to me that you make sure the trash gets to the road on Wednesdays.
Yeah.
And so instead of, it's Wednesday. Do you know it's Wednesday? Take the trash out, because you don't ever take the trash out. Like, you're too busy watching TV to get the trash out. And I have to tell you 20 times. Like, it's one sentence, not 30.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Well, I think these are good things.
Me too. So I don't know. Were we supposed to look at the camera very much? I don't know that I did very much.
I tried to cheat that way some, but
okay. We'll have to see what we think about that.
We'll get better at it.
Is that going to be on YouTube?
Well, we're still having a conversation with each other, so they
this
can,
is true.
we're just, they're the third person in the room.
Fair.
Yeah.
So is this going to be on YouTube? Is that where they find the video?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, good.
So find us there. Nightstand Coffee.
Still don't have a tagline.
Nope, we don't.
See you next time.
Till next time, guys.